So, Moa, we have both been burning the midnight oil, you more than others. You actually watched Trump saying whatever he did say at 1:30 in the night. And of course, we exchanged notes and started writing in the night itself. So it's a big thing. It's a big day. Welcome, viewers, to another edition of the Geoeconomic Show. It's a big day. Trump has had his Liberation Day. He has announced tariffs on a host of countries.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple, can't get any simpler than that.
We have been hit. We have been imposed with a 26% tariff. This is on top of the 10% tariff on all imports, cutting across countries, cutting across industries that Trump had announced earlier. That will kick in from 5th of April. And now this new tariff rates that he has announced for various countries will kick in from the midnight of 9th. That is from 10th onwards, it will be so. So we are facing an uphill task of having to pay 26% tariff on whatever we export to the US, and we export about 78, 80 billion dollars of goods to the US. It's a huge export market for us. We also earn a lot of money, 45 to 50 billion dollars from the US in terms of merchandise exports. That is the trade balance that we have in our favor. If it's cold comfort, Mahua, actually our neighbors have been hit with higher tariffs.
Absolutely.
Cambodia has got 49%, Vietnam 46%, Sri Lanka 44%, Bangladesh 37%, Thailand 36%,
yes,
and Pakistan 29%. China, of course, we don't even have to talk about it, 34%. Now, we know that these are also our competitor countries. Let's say textiles. Bangladesh is our competitor, so is
China.
Vietnam, so is China, but China is on an up end, kind
Absolutely.
of textiles. So do we have an advantage there? Yes and no. It's for a very short while because everybody is going to negotiate with the Trump administration. We have already started negotiating for a mini trade deal, and we are hoping that much of these tariffs will vanish once that trade deal is signed. So is Vietnam. So is, I think, Cambodia. Bangladesh hasn't started negotiating, but I'm guessing that Bangladesh and Pakistan will also start talking. There are a lot of people who are going to start talking to the American authorities. Of course, there are others who are threatening the Americans with reciprocal tariff, and if they are big enough and the Americans have enough stake in those countries, they will get away. They will have a much more favorable deal. But in our case, Mahua, we are actually in a bad spot because we have a huge trade gap, and frankly speaking, what we export means a lot to us, but what USA exports to us, it doesn't mean all that much to it. Though, frankly, I mean, it doesn't matter if we reduce tariffs, does it? If we reduce tariff on California wine, how does it hit us? It doesn't really hit us too much. A few urban elite people will be drinking that. If they get their wine cheaper, it doesn't really matter.
Even Harley Davidson.
Even Harley Davidsons.
How many people will actually
ride a Harley Davidson? It costs about 20 lakhs to ride a Harley Davidson. If you reduce the taxes, it will probably cost about 16, 18 lakhs. And even there, it will be a minuscule market as far as India is concerned, which really does this. But Moha, I am also here on another point. We were discussing that we can gain an advantage because of the tariffs he has imposed on our competitors. You spoke in the morning to a lot of people, to the gems and jewelry guys, to some of those people who are in FIO, etc. How do they view it?
So see, Joyanto, right now the situation is very fluid. Nobody exactly knows what the outcome, what the impact is going to be. But at the same time, like what you said, the reciprocal tariff on other economies, other competing economies with which we compete in terms of exports, such as China, such as Vietnam. Vietnam has come up in a big way in the last few years. Then, of course, Bangladesh in ready-made garments and textiles and things like that. So if you see, their reciprocal tariff is much, much higher than what India has been slapped with. India has a tariff of 26%, whereas these countries, like what you mentioned, is much higher. And if you see, US is the largest importer of apparel and ready-made garment. about 98% of its ready-made garment and apparel is basically sourced from other countries. Now, overnight, it will not be able to start producing ready-made garments.
Or even at that rate at which Bangladesh or India
absolutely,
sells.
absolutely, to meet the demand. So in this case, maybe India should spin it off. India should play its cards very carefully and try and spin it off to its own benefit and fill up that gap, because obviously for Bangladesh, for Vietnam, it's a much higher tariff. Bangladesh in any case is facing a lot of its own domestic issues. So India might just have a kind of a win-win situation if we
Yeah, it seems bad to say that someone else is losing, so that is why we are winning, which is not good. We would like to win on your own merit.
Absolutely.
But if you get a chance, why not? The other thing, Mahu,
like all is fair.
all is fair in love and war.
Love and war.
And business is a
Yeah.
kind of war. But one interesting thing, Mahu, just look at it. Vietnam was talking to the Chinese, 46%. Bangladesh, Yunus went to Beijing and he offered them sweet trade deals. And also, he's the biggest purchaser of Chinese arms in this region. 72% of their military equipment comes from China. They are getting a 44%. 37%. Sri Lanka, which has given Hambantota port to the Chinese, they have been in talks with the Chinese again. So 44%. So somewhere one has this lurking suspicion. It's only a suspicion. We cannot say that it is so. That USA has also taken the trouble of punishing countries which might have been talking to the Chinese, which might have been. Do you remember they were also telling us, if you have a BRICS currency, then you will be hit with more tariffs. Of course, there is no BRICS currency, and there is BRICS currency is just a dream which some people had. I doubt if it will ever fructify. But here is a US-China rivalry which is also playing out in third countries. Do you think that might help us too in some ways?
So see, China itself is a competitor when you talk of these countries, because China itself is also an exporter of garments.
Huge exporter.
Exporter. So these countries, of course, will look at China, and China will look at these countries. So, but it's going to be difficult to replace a market like the US. So that
or
is,
a producer like China.
or a producer like China. So that is where Indian textile industry, Indian garment industry needs to really focus on and cash in on the opportunity, rather than looking at the high tariff and how it's going to impact. Because all said and done, it's important to spin this into a
win-win for
into
us.
a win-win. And like you said, the bilateral trade agreement is also underway, so it should be in place by maybe October, November. So
Yeah,
help.
that'll still mean some
Yeah,
losses for
yeah.
us, because April 9, the April 9 deadline is so that it's a kind
Correct.
of push to us.
Yes,
You do
yes.
it fast, do it fast, do it fast. But in the meantime, till trade deals are done with various countries, American consumers are not going to have it easy. Everything that they buy is going to get costlier with this round of tariff increase. Let's see how long can the USA sustain its tariff hike. After all, it too needs to buy stuff from the rest of the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is as far as we are concerned in this edition of the Geoeconomic Show. Next week, again, same day.